By the way, before we start, we'd like to welcome a new sponsor to the show. Overall, Rooftop Innovations jumping on with us. Super excited to have them on. They're going to be a sponsor for a lot of things that we do around here. So very excited to have them on joining us. Top 5 position groups / units that went portal crazy. So these are teams that maybe like turned over a whole position group in 1 year in the portal. Number 5, TCU wide receivers. They're going to have 3 new wide receivers. And look, they were going to have new wide receivers anyway, but they're not the ones that they brought up through their own recruiting ranks and system. Their 3 starting receivers will be JoJo Earl from Alabama, John Paul Richardson from Oklahoma State, and Dylan Wright from Minnesota. All will make up for Quentin Johnston and people forget about Darius Davis. Darius Davis gone too. That's a huge loss for TCU as well, but they have gone all in portal-wise on wide receiver, and they'll have a new quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see how that all jives together early on in Kendall Browell's offense. Wouldn't be surprised to see them add another one as well here on down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the smart route to go. I mean, when you're losing so much talent and experience, go replenish it, with some guys who have already played a little bit or played a lot. I am curious, how that gels initially, but I can't help but think about how simplistic that offense is. And It's not like there's some massive learning curve for guys. If anything, they're kind of going to dumb things down, I would imagine, from some of what they've previously been accustomed to. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just they bragged about it when they were here about how simple it was and, but yet effective. So, yeah, that Kendall's going to have some great wideouts at his disposal, and those are some good names. Let's see if it, translates into success next season. Yep.
Number 4, Washington at running back brought in 2 new ones, Dylan Johnson from Mississippi State and Daniel Nada from Arizona State in that offense, which was already really good, averaged 39.7 points a game in 2022. Of course, Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback there, but it is under Kalen DeBoer. Mostly, it does run through the running game. They're a very run-based offense. Curious to see how it changed because they, as you watch the offense towards last year, it didn't matter who was running the ball. For the most part, they were getting through the line and gaining yards. So these guys, coming at Washington, not a surprise. And Dylan Johnson, really good in Mike Leach's offense last year, in the SEC.
Washington running backs, they always have some dude. I mean, like Alpha. Still hate that Javion Sunday just never worked out for him. That just never did. But, yeah, that's just something they're going to – who was the guy that ran real well against Texas in the bowl game? I forget his name.
Talapapa. He's not there anymore.
Absolutely good player. And so they had to replace him, and it appears as if they might have a couple of nice options.
And I guess Will Nixon is still waiting to make his impact up there as well. Another guy that we saw
Midway High School,
Nebraska. But, they're a solid running back room, and, they did pretty well for themselves in the portal.
Yep, absolutely. Number 3, Wisconsin quarterbacks. Not 1, not 2, but all 3 quarterbacks that they brought into the system are transfers. Tanner Mordecai, Braden Locke, and Nick Evers, all transferred in from somewhere else. And, of course, we know Tanner Mordecai really well. Cannot wait, honestly, to see him in that system. Right now, it looks like Braden Locke is the second string quarterback, and Nick Evers is the third string quarterback coming out of spring. But Tanner Mordecai and Phil Longo's offense that the Big Ten has never seen is going to be wild to see in year 1. I hope, for Wisconsin's sake, they do have the other players around him that Luke Fickell's been able to build. But this was a team last year. I mean, we were all kind of surprised when they got to a point where they had to fire their coach. But when they did, and they brought in Luke Fickell, and he's decided to turn the whole thing on its ear, and you throw Braylon Allen into that mix returning on offense, should be super fun to watch the Badgers next year. But all 3 quarterbacks that they got out of the portal, which usually you can get 1 or 2, but going all 3 to me was really surprising.
Yeah, I'm excited for Tanner. Excited to see what he can do. Like you said, it's going to be a new look for the Big Ten with what they're going to be doing on that side of the ball. So should be super fun to see, just how many waves they can make early on. But they needed some depth and some proven nature at quarterback, and I think they've checked some boxes with all their activity this offseason. But super excited for Tanner as yet another guy that we watched here in high school.
So who arrived there first?
I think it was.
I think it was Evers. I don't remember
Evers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was
you wonder
Evers.
if when he comes in, then number 2 where Tanner was. If Tanner would have been first, would the other 2 have come in?
Well, he's only there for a year, and they're both
true.
freshmen.
That's
So
true.
I think that's not all that surprising when they get all that said and done. Number 2, Wisconsin offensive line. 3 different offensive linemen that they brought in. 2 of them from
Michigan. You said Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Michigan offensive linemen. 2 of them that brought in from Stanford in Drake Nugent and Miles Henton, and Ladarius Henderson, left tackle from Arizona State, coming in as well. And they had a ton of success with transfers on the line last year. And really turning it into winning the Big Ten for the second year in a row. So they're starting to build a little factory there in Ann Arbor again. It's taken longer than I think they wanted it to, but Jim Harbaugh, especially along the fronts now, is starting to dominate. If you look across, who was drafted from Michigan this past year is mostly the big dudes.
Yeah, they're stocked in the trenches. You'd expect that at a school like that, and Harbaugh's just loading them up. Whether the recruiting or the transfer portal, it's a nice situation to have, especially for those offensive quarterbacks or offensive skill players, in particular your quarterbacks. But they got a factory building up out there in Ann Arbor right now.
Yep. And number 1, the U.S.
Speaking of that, their offensive line. That's why they've beaten Ohio State, right? The physicality of just pounding them.
Well, their offensive line has been better a lot than the Ohio State defensive line. So that's what Ohio State has to get better at, and that's why they brought in Jim Knowles to do that. And number 1, the USC defense. I would say more front 7 than defense, but really, they brought it in at all levels. But if you just look at the 4 major people they brought in the front 7, linebacker Mason Cobb from Oklahoma State. This one, outside of Spencer Sanders, I think this is the one that kind of guts them the most this year. For the Cowboys, is losing Mason Cobb. He's a really, really excellent player, and we'll see if Alex Grinch can get it out of him again there in Los Angeles. But Bear Alexander from Georgia, Anthony Lucas from Texas A&M, and Keon Bars from Arizona, all transferring along that defensive line. All young guys, not as proven, but USC knows, and Lincoln Riley knows, the reason he is not at Oklahoma and at USC crossed that finish line into winning a college football playoff game or getting into the title game or doing all that is because the defense has been soft wherever he's been. So we'll see if it pays off for him, but they have certainly doubled down on getting defensive players in the portal.
Well, they have to, yeah.
Yeah, got to do it. Got to have those guys to win big like they want to. So all sounds good, looks good, but need to see the actual results. And Alex Grinch is still the guy there, so shouldn't have as many excuses this year as to where they're not, playing up to their potential. I mean, it's Caleb Williams' final year. I don't care about Malachi Nelson and all these other dudes that are coming afterwards. I know what Caleb Williams is. I don't know about these other cats and how they'll translate, although I'm sure they'll be, just fine because Lincoln Riley's got a proven track record there. But you better go all in this year with Caleb Williams, and it looks like they are. And like I said, looks good on paper, but let's see how it actually, pans out and plays out under Alex Grinch.
All right, Paul, thank you very much.